This lesson is number 10 in the study of the book of Revelation, which means the unveiling. And this is a unique chapter, Revelation 12, unique in that it covers all three of the earth ages. It goes through the first earth age, and in the earth age we are in now, and then we have a glimpse into the millennium age, which begins when Jesus, the actual Jesus, steps his foot onto Mount Zion. Chapter 12, the great book of Revelation, number 1. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. Now, the woman here is symbolic of Mother Israel, and 12 stars are the main ones in the zodiac. Each 12 houses in the zodiac, there is one main star too. And she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth and pained to be delivered. And this is the birth of a new age. 3. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his head. Now, that is none other than Satan himself. And at this dispensation here, we are in the first earth age, because he now has 10 instead of 7, and that's a governmental number. He will have 10 kings with him when he comes, and this is the first rebellion, the initial rebellion of Satan in heaven. And his tail drew a third of the part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, and to devour her child as soon as it was born. And of course, that is in 1/3 of the angels followed Satan in the first earth age. And now when we are at this birth here, this woman, that is none other than Mary, and we are in the current earth age, and this is the birth of Christ. And of course, Satan wanted to devour that child. 5. And she brought forth a man-child, who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron, and her child was caught up unto God and to his throne. Who else has resurrected from the dead? None but Jesus himself, and he will rule with a rod of iron, not in the earth age into which he was born, but the coming age. 6. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she hath a place prepared of God, that they should feed her there 1,260 days. Now those are the days of Daniel discussed in Daniel chapter 7. That would be the days in the wilderness, and the wilderness, they were in the wilderness for 600 years before, they were in the wilderness for 40 days during the escaped from Egypt, and these the wilderness there will be a place where the persons who are here during the time of the Antichrist. Remember when the Israelites were into the wilderness, they were taken care of, they were fed, their shoes didn't wear out, their clothes didn't wear out. They had a hedge around them, and exactly the same will be when the elect must be in this earth age when the Antichrist is here. Seven, and there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels. That's in the future. There's war in heaven because he's there creating issues and problems and tattling. Oh God, did you see what old so and so did? And you thought he was a good person. And remember back in the previous chapter when Satan rolls out and there was silence in heaven. Silence because he will be gone. 8, and prevailed not, neither was their place found any more in heaven, because Michael lets him go, and he comes to the earth as the Antichrist. 9, and the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent, called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast into the earth, and his angels were cast with him. This is reading in the past tense, but it is futuristic. It's the final, when right now Michael is holding Satan, and in the end, the last, he will be let to go, and his angels and his 10 little kings, those crowns, will be with him, as we will see. 10, and I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now is come salvation and strength in the kingdom of our God and the power of his Christ, for the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our God day and night. And that's what he did. And that's why there was silence. He was gone. He wasn't saying, oh, have you seen old so-and-so? And look what he did, God. And you thought he was a good person. And he'll bring his angels with him. And remember in Matthew 24 that Jesus tells us the end times will be like the days of Noah. Now think back, why was it that God needed to prepare an ark and save Noah's family? He had to save Noah's family, not because they were perfect and good, but because they had not mixed with those fallen angels. And that is exactly what Jesus meant when he said that in Matthew. Now, looking at Paul's warning in 1 Corinthians chapter 11, he tells us a little bit about that time. 10, for this cause ought the woman to have power on her head because of the angels. What angels? The angels that will be coming in the end times. And your head is to be covered, and prayer with not a hat. And that is why some believers in certain churches wear a hat all the time, because we are supposed to be in prayer all the time. That's another Pauline message about covering the head, and we got the mistaken idea that we needed a kerchief or a hat on our head, and it actually means to have the power of Christ over our heads, and that would be needed in that last time here when the Antichrist and his angels come, because certainly those angels will be once again capable of intermingling with human women. Back to Revelation chapter 12. Verse 11, and they overcame him by their blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives unto the death. Now that has means that the blood of the Lamb has saved persons, and there's no reason to be afraid of any kind of persecution. And I want now to look at Job chapter 1 and verses 9 and 10 particularly. Book of Job, 1500 BC, chapter 1, verse 9. Then Satan answered the Lord and said, doth Job fear God for naught? 10. Hast not thou made a hedge about him and about his house and about all that he hath on every side? Thou hast blessed the work of his hands, and his substance is increased in the land. 11. But put forth thine hand now and touch all that he hath, and he will curse thee to thy face. 12. And the Lord said unto Satan, behold, all that he hath is in thy power, only upon himself put not forth thine hand. So Satan went forth from the presence of the Lord. And Job is a type now, a type for Christians who will refuse to turn. And God removed the hedge. He took the wall down, and Satan took everything he had, including some of his children. And right on up into the book of Job, his own very wife said, oh, just lie down, Job, and curse the Lord and die. And we got 38 chapters of ratchet jaw friends who come forward, and you need to be very careful reading Job and listening to someone teach on Job, because those ratchet jaws are giving an argument, trying to convince Job that somehow he has failed to be a faithful servant to God, and that finally Job never does give. He never refuses, and God appears at the end, and he says to Job, gird thyself, and that means get ready for battle. And he says, where were you when the planets were put in place? Where were you? And that lesson in Job is for us. God will put a wall around us, a hedge. We have complete power over Satan. There's not a thing to be afraid of, with all the kinds of misinterpretation, I would say, of the book of Revelation to make it sound physical and scary. It is not. The tribulation is not so much physical as it is spiritual. It's a horrible thing, because Satan is able to draw away persons who sat in church all their lives. And got taken in. Back to Revelation chapter 12. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. And we've already been told he only has 5 months. And yeah, he's angry. He's angry because he wants to persecute, and the persecution will be in the form of lies and deception. And remember the chapter before the thunders, and Jesus said in Luke 10 that he saw Satan fall like a lightning from heaven. That's futuristic. And that 5 months time was shortened to 5 months. And we saw in Revelation 9 that he will have fire and smoke and brimstone, spewing lies. And then he turns vicious at the very end. We learned that we know that we have been told by prophet that Satan will come in peacefully and profitably. And he'll promise anything and everything, but they will all be physical promises, not spiritual. And he'll be able to pull down a little lightning and pull off a few magical tricks, but he won't be able to raise anybody from the dead or heal anyone. He does not have that power. And that 5-month period, 13. And when the dragon saw that he was cast on to the earth, he persecuted the woman which brought forth the man-child, and that's Mother Israel in his persecution. And Mother Israel there, those are all believers, Christians, and he persecutes because he draws them away from God, just as he tried to draw Job. And Job held, and Job was restored, everything he had double. And when you read it, you think, well, he didn't get his children back double, but the ones that died were in heaven, so they were there. They were counted because they were in with God, and we have that same wall of protection. 15. And the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood. And that woman, again, symbolic of all Christians who would be taken in with his flood. And his flood is, of course, a flood of lies. 16. And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of his mouth. The very word of God can take it away. Remember that God will take care of his own. And there's another time in Old Testament history where the earth opened up and swallowed those persons who were challenging Moses. And Moses said to them, stand back. And the earth opened up and swallowed every one of them. 17 to conclude this chapter. And the dragon was wroth with the woman, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed. That's the elect, trying to get them also. which keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. And remember that we are like Job. Satan, when the hedge was taken away, Satan was given permission to take everything but Job's life himself, and he never succumbed. Job never, ever failed to continue to love God, even as he sat in sackcloth and covered in sores. The great book of Revelation, chapter 12. This video has been a voluntary outreach of the Essex United Methodist Church in Essex, Missouri.